The story begins with someone alerting the police that there is a girl in the alleys who is in danger. They say they will investigate it, while his partner asks if it wasn't that girl in front of them, but he tells her to leave it because they are understaffed. She doesn't want to ignore it, but her partner isn't helping. At that moment, a police officer appears, telling those bastards to let her go. The boss, defiant, asks what he is talking about. The officer just tells the guy to step away. The boss comes up with a cigarette but, saying, "What if I don't want to," and gets slapped in the face. Since they don't want to leave, it's time to have a snack with a good punch in the face. The boss, angry, comes back and gets a big punch. Not satisfied with having his face smashed, he pulls a knife from his shirt, saying he will kill him. He tries to threaten the officer, saying he has done it before, but if he really has the guts, he should come on him all sinister. Before he can react, the guy drops the knife, asking who the hell he is. But he's just the guy who will put them all in jail. A police officer. Then it takes us to a week ago, at the port of Incheon. Our friend opens the container, asking if everyone is there because this is an assassin called Bi-Gwang. Then it shows another guy in the back, with the codename Maple Leaf, saying that this time he is not late. While he is asking about the mission, one of the men in the back comes with a chain, because Buddha had requested this service. But at that moment, he pulls the chain and hits the guy hard, asking what the hell they are doing. In fact, the Oriental guy says this is just their job, the retirement ceremony of the legendary assassin Bi-Gwang. And at that moment, everyone charges at him. The first takes a hit with the same chain and a kick to the face. The second gets a kick to the neck. The third comes with a knife, but he swings the chain over, breaking the neck along with the chain, because none of this is enough to bring him down. But at that moment, the crazy guy pulls a pistol from his shirt, saying he was shocked when he heard about this mission from Buddha. And then Gwang asks if all this was an order from Buddha, because that bastard had promised that after his last mission he would be free. But the blonde guy just tells him to ask that after death. So, goodbye, Gwang. And then the man jumps up and you only hear the sound of gunshots. While at Buddha's temple, he received a call and immediately asked if the job was finished. A strange voice replied that everything was ready. But the defiant Buddha said he was preparing the procedures for Gwang's own funeral. Then, he asked if Buddha was at the temple, and the answer was that he is a monk and the temple is where he should be. He asked if he could stop by, but Buddha just said, "Keep the doors open, because I am right here." At that moment, a big guy came over, saying Buddha was busy with the preparations. But Buddha is just a piece of shit, because a real Buddha doesn't kidnap children to turn them into assassins. Hearing this, the big guy pulled out his weapon, but Gwang ducked with his knife, telling him to get out of his way, because he lost everything because of these people, his body, his childhood, and his family. And so he starts taking them down one by one, even though he is injured. After knocking out everyone around him, the bastard Buddha appears, pointing a gun at his head, while Gwang says that he promised he would let him live as a normal human after that mission. He promised all that, but Buddha says that all humans live and die in the end because that's what living as a normal human means. So, Gwang, just rest in peace. As he was lying down, he started to hear voices telling him to wake up. When he opened his eyes, he said, "Huh, officer?" While the other officer said that the doctor mentioned he might have memory loss when he woke up. And the other, desperate, said, "Pull yourself together, Kim." And there he was, not understanding who Kim was. So, the other officer gave him a mirror and showed his identification, because he was a police officer from Wilson Station. And then, not understanding anything, he thought that the legendary assassin had become a police officer. From what he heard from the others, he had reincarnated into a body that had jumped from a building. And that's why the other desperate officer was asking how he could do this to his life because he was lucky the rope broke, even though he was in a coma for a week. Then she said, "Listen here, you idiot, there's no point in jumping from a building and writing the names of those bastards in your farewell letter because none of that will solve your problems." Wally asked, "What the hell was that?" But actually, the former owner of the body wrote the names of the police officers who were bullying him every day in the letter. Sometime later, those same bullies appeared, slapping him while the woman was trembling on the ground. They asked why the rookies were so bad. These annoying guys are senior officers who kept teasing Kim because his parents jumped from a building after committing a crime together. They asked if he was trying to do the same because if he wanted to go straight to the grave, he should do it quietly since he wrote their names in that letter before trying to kill himself. And when he came to give the next slap, Kim just grabbed his hand, asking why he did that. Then he asked Jaeongi, who was on the floor, if this wasn't an act of rebellion. She, trembling, just said she couldn't see anything from the floor. Then the other guy said, so I'll help you, while showing that it wasn't just the girl making a triangle, the other bald guy was in the same position. So Kim said that this place was very tedious, and when the annoying guy tried to say more, he just squeezed, making him scream in pain, telling him to remove his hand. But when he let go, he just gave a slap to his neck, knocking the man out. While the other guy was asking what that was, he didn't escape either and took a kick to the balls, with his tongue almost popping out, and the woman on the floor was shocked because he hit the senior officers. Later, Superintendent Choi was yelling at them because officers were fighting each other and hitting their superiors, and he said he would ensure they never wore the uniform again. Then Kim was in the park thinking that police officers are very annoying because inside, the woman asked why he did that, but of course, it was in self-defense, right? Then the other guy said that the father of that bastard is a vice commissioner because he has a Taiguk Magua, which is probably a mark identifying some powerful rank, and that's why everyone says, go home safely and good luck. And sitting there on the bench, he thinks that's why the police could never catch someone like him. And thinking about it, the guy's father has a Taiguk which might be equivalent to a military star, so he should have at least been reborn as a high-ranking police officer to make life easier, while the girl asks her mother what a police officer is. But he is there complaining because even in the organization, he was excluded, since in the past that man took him when he was a child, and this same boy in the future ended up becoming a legendary assassin after being trained by Buddha, but in the end, things turned out the way they did. Until in the apartment, he sees that kind of rope that the crazy Kim had used because he was someone abandoned by his parents and the organization and ended up wanting to leave this world, until at the West Police Department, Superintendent Hong Ju was in his office, but at that moment a masked man arrives asking if he was okay because it had been a while, and when he heard this, he tried to get up, but he was forced to sit back in the chair because now they were going to have a chat, and when the guy asks who he is, the man just responds, Bi-Gwang. After hearing this, they end up sitting down to talk because the man couldn't believe that story since he died and woke up as a police officer. But he's not asking the guy to believe it since he's threatening him, saying he will help in the sweep operation against the organization. The guy, not understanding, asks who he is again, while probably calling for reinforcements under the table. At that moment, a loud noise starts, and Kim just narrows his eyes, saying he's not asking for a favor but threatening him since he put all the police officers to sleep. He talks about the promise they made 3 years ago when Gwang appeared on a rainy day, asking if he was the guy after Buddha. As the first one to get so close to him, Buddha asked him to deliver a message, saying he had no interest in old men like him. When passing the umbrella, he begged for mercy. So, Gwang just took off the mask because they were going to make a deal. He would let the old man live, and in return, he should promise to put that Buddha in jail within 3 years. He even asks why since they're in the same organization. The response is that he hates monks because they are bald. But in reality, in the present, he didn't keep that promise. And as he already has 2 Taiguk, it seems he has been promoted quite well over the years. In other words, he broke the promise and sucked up to the superiors. So, he goes down, but already desperate, saying he didn't break the promise on purpose since it's easier to get confidential information if he reaches the high ranks of the police. With all the information he collected, he presented it to the police, a group of organized assassins, and the supposed leader of this organization is Monk Yua, known as Buddha. But it didn't work because all the police officers laughed at him, saying he reads too many manhwas since the Hwaguksa temple is a cultural heritage of the country. He even tried to talk about the investigation results, but the guy at the top of the police just said that if he's not careful, he might face divine punishment. So, in the end, he was stopped by someone above him and showed what he and his squad managed to collect about the organization. And as it is, Kim will let him live a little longer, but not to get too happy because from now on, he will help Mr. Hong not be killed by him. Thus, at the Ilsan precinct, Kim just arrived there, greeting everyone with a good morning, while our desperate woman asks if he wasn't fired. Then, when the old man came out from inside, he saw that the scoundrel had really come back and said, I told you not to show your face here again. But actually, who appeared behind Kim was the general superintendent, leaving the old police officer dumbstruck, asking what brought him there. He says he just came to see Mr. Kim's work. The old man asks what his relationship is with Kim, and actually, Agent Kim is his savior. So, he asks him to take good care of Kim and the police force. Outside, Kim told him that the life of a high-ranking police officer must be very good, but now he has one more favor to ask. At night, in the temple, a shadow appeared on the wall behind Buddha, saying it was a poor soul harboring a great grudge, perhaps what they call a ghost. At that moment, the bald Buddha just attacked him with spikes, but none of it worked because a monk should not damage temples that consecrate Buddha. So, he asked who he was with that mask, and Buddha just snapped his fingers, with his men appearing on the wall because he would help the ghost find the light. And so, immediately, they all came at him. Kim just punched the first one and grabbed his knife, then he started cutting through everyone. Seeing this, Buddha ordered his men to stop, while on Kim's recording screen, everything became blurred due to the signal interference created by the orchid. But even so, he continued saying there were more souls he needed to help find the light, or they would become ghosts like him. Buddha said he didn't know who sent him here and called him closer, wanting to see his face. Kim just said, I'm fine, because I only came today to say hi. Buddha will know in time who he is. So, now it's time to leave, as he still needs to train his body properly, while Buddha came at him full force. But at that moment, he spread smoke everywhere, having used tear gas and disappeared through the window. Until the next day, at the park, Mr. Hong arrived all disheveled, to the point where Kim said he had aged about 10 years since yesterday. And the reason for this, of course, is because of him, as he had to clean up the mess from the police invasion, as well as smuggle that grenade for him. He was complaining that if he had caught that Buddha, he wouldn't have had to do it. But actually, it's not that simple, as they need to gather solid evidence. Then Hong kept complaining, since he was a crazy assassin and didn't understand the law, because even if they catch the criminals, they still need to be judged and convicted, or else he's just an innocent. Then Kim has the idea to create his own squad, but actually, he can't right now because he has zero experience, and within the police force, rank means everything. So Kim asks how far he needs to go to create his own squad, and in fact, he needs at least one of those small mangangwas. That's why they need to start working now and quickly climb the hierarchy. And when Hong was about to say something, Kim had already disappeared. At the Ilsan police station, he was asking two guys with orange hair how to get promoted, and actually, he has to take the promotional exam. While the other guy asked him to take care of the drunk woman here, he was there asking when the exam is. But before doing that, he still needs at least 1 year of experience. The woman asked for beer, and he told her to stay quiet. Meanwhile, the orange-haired guy said that for a rookie to get a mangangwa starting from the bottom, it will take at least 10 years. Then Kim asked, even if someone high-ranking is supporting you? Actually, there is another thing called a special promotion, meaning if your performance score is increased by catching criminals, you can receive this promotion. And since they are rookies without experience, they only deal with civilian complaints. While he continued talking, our ninja disappeared because now he's going to work hard to catch criminals and get that promotion. In the middle of the street, he was thinking that out of every 3 Koreans, at least one has a criminal record. The reason might be simple, but it's a huge number. Among the various crimes committed, Kim is now looking for something very serious that will advance his career. Ahead, he encountered the first crime, those strange cards. Inside the club, the blonde DJ said that the people were down while enjoying the music. A woman said that with champagne, there would be a lot of partying. They offered champagne, stickers, and partying like there was no tomorrow. In the flow of the music, a big guy said this was going to end up in jail. The blonde responded, inviting him to help last all day with that sticker, but he didn't need to last because those stickers are narcotics. The crowd was shocked, and the blonde asked who he was to say that. He replied that he is a police officer. The blonde guy starts fighting with the guards who let a cop in. At this moment, a bottle hits a guard in the mouth, and everyone starts fleeing while Kim knocks everyone down with kicks. On the other side, the door is locked, as Kim has already caused chaos with his fists. He then asks if they want to play cops and robbers with him. The blonde realizes Kim is alone and orders the guards to finish him off. Before going, they stick a red sticker on their necks, making the guards' veins bulge. They become euphoric, but it doesn't help. Kim knocks the first one down with a punch and the next with a loud ouch in AAA. The blonde tries to negotiate, offering him anything he wants. But Kim wants a special promotion, which he got because the nightclub case went viral on TV. Kim just says, "I did my job, sir." The superior scolds him for abandoning his assigned work. Since he's no longer a rookie, he does what he wants. He shows something hidden at the crime scene, Polonia leaves, which were on the stickers. At this moment, it cuts to Ms. Phoenix sticking red stickers on the skinny guy in charge of Ilsan. He failed, and now he's being tortured to death. She thought she didn't want to be punished. Seeing Kim's photo, she knows she has to deal with him soon. Kim, training at home, thinks the only thing he has felt since entering this body is that it was well trained. Muscle strength, endurance, agility, and flexibility, all of it was well balanced. But still, for him to be able to take down the Buddhist temples and all the executives, he needs to be stronger than this. At the police station, the 3 musketeers come to ask Kim for some time because they want to know how to get promoted. The woman was going to say it's because he has Hong's support, but the other one shuts her mouth, saying the reason is he was promoted recently, so if he needs help, he can look for them. He questions, "Why would I need your help?" They start giving various reasons, saying they're colleagues and have always been nice. Hearing the word colleagues, he remembers that in the past, other guys from the organization came saying him being the best is a joke since an assassin shouldn't choose his victim. Until Phoenix arrived, saying the Buddha gives him special treatment, which is very annoying. Kim just says, "Colleagues? Come back when you're promoted." The girl already wanted to throw something in his face for being so arrogant. Until the officer in charge of the station arrives, asking why they are loitering around. Jae-youngi responds that they are taking a break. Break? Get to work, you brats. Meanwhile, Kim is an exception, the station's lucky charm. Actually, this old guy is only like this because he's being promoted thanks to Kim. Switching scenes, we are with those two who got beaten up in the beginning, and they are pissed at Kim. One asks his friend to take it easy because if the pressure goes up, it will hurt down there. But this only makes him angrier because the general superintendent is backing Kim, and he got promoted. Suddenly, a beautiful woman appears behind them, asking if they can help her find the police station. Just by looking at her, the guys blushed, while she said that her phone had died. Excitedly, they responded that they could definitely help her. The place she wants to go is the Ilsan police station. Coincidentally, it's their station as well. She continues, saying that she is looking for Officer Kim. They say, "We know him, he's our subordinate." She explains that she needs him because he has some things that belong to her, and her father will kill her if she doesn't get them back. To thank them, she offers some strange food. Meanwhile, Mr. Hong is thinking about Kim's report on the November Phoenix. According to him, she is in charge of the temple's finances and uses those imagination stickers to bring people down. Each of them has a stage and is called the Tears of Buddha. Something she fears is being punished by Buddha himself, besides being known as the infamous lunatic of Hwaguksa. At the station, that woman arrived, knocking people out with the funny snacks because it's really Kim she's looking for. Another woman asks if she lost something, and the answer is yes, the paulownia flowers wrapped in the leaves. Hearing this, the musketeers even wonder if there's something like that there. Actually, they don't need to look in the inventory because that cop in the middle has them. So, she got confused, asking what he's talking about. In Kim's mind, that crazy woman hasn't changed at all. He was already trying to talk to slave number 1, but there was no signal since the calls were blocked thanks to the orchid signal, just like the security cameras. He remembers that this started back then because, when he was younger, Buddha made him fight other children. There, he ended up defeating a girl, just like the others. Since everyone was useless, he only ordered them all to be taken to meet Buddha. Guan even tried to say that maybe, if they received a bit of training, they could become good, but Buddha himself said that empathy is an unnecessary emotion. Then, one of the children, before dying, said she would train a lot to be useful to Buddha, but he just said it would be easier if she died and met him in the next life. Desperate, the girl began to beg for mercy, but Buddha's men just poured poison down her throat. The next day, after the cleanup, that child was still breathing. That's how Buddha started forcing her to eat poisons if she wanted to be useful to him. And so, she built up her tolerance to those substances and, when she became an adult, turned into the November Phoenix. Since then, she has become a lunatic addicted to getting high. She was right there in front of him, asking if he was listening or going to keep ignoring her. She wanted to know where her things were. With many eyes on them, he simply said they were at his house and asked if she wanted to come with him. But the woman scowled, saying he wouldn't leave them at his own house, and threw 3 stickers that hit the musketeers behind them. It was nap time for everyone, and Phoenix's men appeared, putting everyone to sleep. She said if they weren't treated soon, they would die. While she was talking, he swiped his hand over her blouse and destroyed the signal blocker hidden there, already calling for reinforcements from Mr. Hong. Since no one was watching, it was the perfect time to send someone to the afterlife. She asked what he was thinking, but she would soon understand clearly when he knocked some sense into her, making her remember the good old times. The cheeky woman teased, "Ooh, such a tough appa, threatening to beat me and ripping my clothes." But she didn't even get to finish her sentence, because he came at her with a baton and kneed her in the face. She asked if he wanted to die, and our badass just taunted her, saying she looked even uglier when she was angry. Furious, she said he wasn't a normal cop and asked where he was from. Regardless, she used a red sticker, thinking he was on his way to finding a job in hell. She flew at him at speed, but he just hit her in the face with the baton, because even after getting beaten, she still couldn't learn. That's why she was going to take a good beating if she wanted any chance against him. All battered, she asked how he dared, and he replied, asking if she would never change, always relying on stickers instead of training her body. Given the current situation, he had to thank her for it because it was going to be very easy. With that, he just hit her in the groin, knocking her down, because this way, getting beaten up, she should recognize who he was. When it was time to finish her off, the flimsy baton shrunk. She managed to push him off, while he complained that the quality of the baton was crap. Then she came at him hard, this time using a sticker he hadn't seen before. When he realized, his hands were covered in those veins just from a simple touch of clothing. She asked who the hell he was, because he had that same expression. At that moment, one of the goons appeared, saying that the orchid had just contacted them, because police reinforcements were almost there. So our cheeky hero said she could leave for today, as they would see each other soon. She gathered everyone to leave, while she was a bit dazed because that cop looked like Bi-Gwang Appa. After everything happened, Mr. Hong arrived, saying he lost the Phoenix, but Kim just threw the baton in his face, complaining that if it wasn't such garbage, he would have caught her. Besides, there was this thing making him not feel his hands. Hong called the doctors, and Kim thought he was lucky, because it seemed like they had increased the original doses of the stickers. Even the police doctor was shocked to see this, as it appeared that woman had turned into a human narcotic. So, it seemed like things were going to get hectic. Then, he asked Mr. Hong for a favor. As night fell, at his house, when he opened the door, there was that smoke with the goons saying they had caught him. Since Miss Phoenix had ordered a lot of that gas, they expected him to hallucinate and die of an overdose. But, in fact, the favor he wanted was some borrowed equipment, because now he was going to shoot these guys, even though the scared kitty didn't come. One of the goons commented, "Wow, he has a gun." And the other, "Relax, bro, it must be unloaded." But, when he said that, Kim sprayed the goons with bullets, because that gun was really very good. After that, the neighbors came to ask what was going on and if what they heard were gunshots. Hong asked how many times he fired, because, even with rubber bullets, the thugs were wrecked. Kim said that when they were transported, they should remove the poison pills from their tongues. Hong even asked if he was really Gwang, but who could believe in reincarnation? After these recent incidents, he was 99% sure that Kim was indeed Gwang, and the remaining 1% was because he hadn't gone there and killed Buddha yet. Kim himself said that they need solid evidence, since Manhwa, better known as Buddha, is respected and adored by every citizen in the country. If that bastard died, how would the public see it? The underworld is much larger than he can imagine. Even though there are other organizations, what he wants is the downfall of that Buddha by all possible means. That's why Hong calls him to work together to put those thugs behind bars. Actually, he was the one being helped. It wasn't like that. And lastly, it wasn't that he tried to kill him, but because he couldn't. After all, he was the one who taught Kim everything. Now, at Buddha's temple, Phoenix was receiving her punishment, with her face smashed, because even after losing the goods, she still invaded the police station. While she repeatedly apologized, Buddha just said that Phoenix needed a lesson. She was there, crying and crawling, begging for forgiveness and promising she wouldn't do that again. At that moment, two muscular men arrived, saying she had fallen another level, crying like a baby. These were the Lespadija brothers, accompanied by Cherry Blossom. Everyone was there to discuss the fate of the November Phoenix. Desperate, she said she would recover everything, but Buddha had already recovered it and therefore asked the Black Lespadija of April, Lespadija of July, and Cherry Blossom of March what they should do with her. Most voted for death. A woman brought Buddha's weapon, as he didn't need someone who wasn't useful. Before being executed, Phoenix said she developed a new sticker 5 times more addictive than the previous one. Then, Buddha asked how the distribution would be. She replied that she connected all the routes between the red houses of Korea, Japan, and China, and asked for a year to prove her worth. In the end, Buddha gave her 3 months to show results. Meanwhile, the musketeers noticed Kim arriving and asked what happened to her, as she was still a bit loopy from that sticker. After gagging her, Kim went to talk to Mr. Hong, who suspected an internal informant, as the stickers mysteriously disappeared from the forensic lab. These evidences were crucial, and Kim promised to get more when facing Phoenix again. Hong mentioned that he had a specialized team investigating the organization, but everyone from that team had already died. Kim then suggested forming a new team. Hong said that, as the superintendent general, he ordered Kim to create a team, as he himself couldn't do it because he had too many eyes on him. Kim, challengingly, replied that he would accept if Hong asked politely. Returning to the 3 musketeers, they would be part of the new super team. Everyone was excited and thanked Kim, saying they were colleagues. But Kim corrected them, saying he didn't need colleagues, but obedient people who followed all his orders. They would be his slaves and should call him master. According to Hong's reports, the first musketeer, Hee-jun, was 25 years old and trained in boxing, kickboxing, taekwondo, and many other martial arts. However, he's kind of dumb and failed the written test 4 times, basically a strong idiot. The other musketeer is the bald Sonyin. He's 25 years old and trained in ground fighting martial arts, like jiu-jitsu and judo. Even though he's good at it, on the day of the interview, he ended up crying like a baby. Our last musketeer is the orange-haired Jyeongi. She's also 25 years old. She has no training in physical combat, so she came last in the exams. But even though she's the weakest physically, she finished first in the written tests and the interview, which means she's very, very smart. On a sunny day, our musketeers were in training clothes, asking why Kim called them there on the weekend. He just said they were police officers and he was a dangerous criminal, so they had 5 minutes to prepare because they would have to capture him. Then, the man tried to ask what happens if they hurt him, but Kim replied, 4 minutes. They joined together as a team to come up with a plan. Inside, they were discussing, bad-mouthing Kim, thinking he couldn't hear them from the other side, even though he could. So, she makes a plan, the strongest pretends to go forward, and the other one confronts him on the ground. But at that moment, Kim throws his shirt back because time's up. The team leader was giving orders for the first one to go ahead, but he started tap dancing half a kilometer away from Kim. And the other one was telling the scatterbrain he should be close to him. At that moment, Kim just landed a strong blow on his face while she was telling the other to go forward. And what did he do? Of course, he ran in the opposite direction because he was afraid of the scary one. Seconds later, Kim approached him, saying he shouldn't turn his back on a criminal. So, it was one right in the face, knocking down the scared one. Approaching the last one, she kept saying to wait a moment, asking if he doesn't touch girls, right? Kim replied that with women, yes, but with police agents, of course, there will be an E. He was there asking if they are from another world because this way they can't catch criminals. So, if they don't want to get screwed, they have to come at full force. The next day, Mr. Hong was asking how the team is doing, but Kim just complained because they are total garbage. He doesn't even know how they passed that police exam, since now we need strong people because we are going after people like him. Also, Kim wants to know when the interrogation will end. So far, they haven't got anything from the cockheads, and Mr. Hong is thinking about using something like truth serum to see if it works. Kim already says that won't work because they worked for Phoenix, who only used that on others. So, he says he'll take care of the interrogation, while Hong warns not to torture the men. But you can leave that to him, everything will be fine. So, entering the room, the cockheads already say it's no use because they won't talk. But then Kim asks about Sangmuk, the one who wears flowery blue clothes, Phoenix's right hand. Or is it the left hand, since there's Doncheol? And there's also the one who's always close to Phoenix. Hearing all this, the guys ask who he is. He replies that it's been a while, but he's Bi-Gwang. One of them panics, while the other says he's dead. Our smart one talks about recognizing those scars since they were made after he was beaten by the Phoenix for smuggling herbs. In reality, Bi-Gwang didn't die. He was assigned to an ultra-secret mission by the Buddha. He faked his death and infiltrated the police to observe every move of the top brass. And he heard that the Phoenix raided a police station and lost the leaves. So, he wants to know what that bastard is up to since her fate depends on them. Because if she's lying in bed twiddling her thumbs after screwing up, according to Buddha's orders, she'll be in big trouble. Then they shout that they don't need to worry because Miss Phoenix is in the process of creating a new adhesive 5 times stronger. So, with Hong, he was going over all the information he got from the cockheads. The only thing he can't find out is where Phoenix lives because it's something even Buddha doesn't know. Probably, only the managers know her whereabouts now. And that's why they need to invade their headquarters and capture those eggheads. Over at Phoenix, she was all high, with the manager saying 3 months is too little, as it's too risky to start rushing things now. But she, angrily, asks if they will then take responsibility if she's reprimanded. At that moment, from the back comes that woman Kim mentioned last, saying she would take responsibility. But what Phoenix wants now is for them to do everything in 3 months. So, Sangmuk was supposed to prepare the routes, Doncheol prepare the rest, and Sangpi stick close to her. And look, just seeing that woman's face, my god, I wouldn't trust her. Until they're with the musketeers, they were dying in training, while Kim told them to get up because the 10-minute break was over. They were complaining that he's being too hard this way, but they themselves said they would do anything and then some. But what they want is to catch crooks, not fight him. They got excited asking how they would go after the crooks, but a while later, they arrived at a warehouse. He opened the door and told the guys to enter because right in front of them are the crooks transporting adhesive. So what are they waiting for? The crooks are right there in front, so they should go after them. Meanwhile, he'll wait outside. Have fun. And then they got into the mess because only one had fought mano a mano before, but never with so many people. The other wanted to go home, but our little boss says it's not like they're going to die because that bastard shouldn't have left them behind. And there he is, by the window just snooping around. So they're going to show Kim that they can catch crooks. Thus, the first one went in with a shuffle and took one right to the face. But it didn't hurt, it was like a kid's punch compared to taking one from Kim. So, he punched him in the stomach. And since the punch didn't hurt, the scaredy cat went after the other. And Jaeyoungi kept screaming for them to go all out. Until their boss stood up and took off his shirt, with those huge pecs, and then he just broke both of them with his muscles. In the end, only the other one was left surrendering, saying she would spill everything. But when he got close, she came at him with a shock taser. And when he was about to kick him, Kim just poked him away and laid him out with a punch, because that's how you catch crooks, not by getting beaten up like them. And then, when they left, one of the Phoenix managers showed up mad because the cops invaded. And looking closely on the table, there was something different, a card from Bi-Gwang. Over at Mr. Hong's, he brought all that seized adhesive. Because with this, you can see that the information wasn't false, and they can proceed with the ambush plan. So, Mr. Hong says he'll introduce the officers who participated. And then, who walks into the room is a member of the KNP Soyu, Superintendent Kim Ah-hyung, who arrived pissed because a mere senior officer is sitting however he wants in Mr. Hong's office. and she immediately puts her foot down, telling him to get up, but he just tells her to try and make him. Because superintendent and senior both start with S, so there isn't much difference, right? At Phoenix, she was already nervous, not understanding why the manager found Gwang's card on that table. So, in the end, she ended up releasing those cards, getting everyone excited for the job. Until in our training field, Kim was saying that Jaeyounggi's body is garbage. She has no muscle mass and the flexibility of a statue, and no specific fighting traits. So, in the operation coming up soon, she'll probably be the first to go into the coffin. At first, Kim thought, who would let a woman like this be a cop, but over time, he understood that she was smart. From what he heard, she's so clever that she memorized the number of all the restaurants near the station and was called the human delivery. And so, if she doesn't want to die now, she needs to focus on increasing her strength. So when she's training, she's to think of this baton as a weapon and remember to memorize all this training. Until a while later, the other two arrived, and Jaeyounggi was already finished on the ground, asking for help. The dummies even asked what they were doing. But then, do you really want to know? And even so, they soon found out what would happen to them. And so, time passed, and here we are 15 days later, the day to execute Phoenix's Polonia operation. And the musketeers were all wow because they're working with the KNPSOU. She was there nagging Kim, since there was nothing in the forest so far. But up ahead, they found 2 roosters and a tunnel. The woman went and kicked one rooster's head, knocking down the other with a kick. Meanwhile, Gwang told Jaeyounggi that this was indeed a good body. But out of nowhere, she ordered them to stop all arrogantly, saying they would watch over these 2 roosters. And apparently, only the body is good, because her head is dumb. She continued there, saying that the KNPSOU is much better than city cops and that they only let them tag along by order of the superintendent general. And so everyone was supposed to stay there and not interfere. Since that's how it is, Kim let them fend for themselves up there. After taking care of the entrance guards and going down long stairs, they reach a place where loud music is playing. But inside, people were like zombies, swaying back and forth. Meanwhile, one of the managers upstairs said he knew this would happen someday. So, he grabbed the loudspeaker and told all club members that unwanted guests had invaded and were trying to ruin the party. And therefore, for every intruder they bring, he'll give them a 1-month free pass. Hearing this, the crowd jumped into action. From that moment on, the operation really began, as now a bunch of addicts were coming, and the police couldn't shoot at them. They tried to throw tear gas bombs, but it was no use because they were in such a state of euphoria that they wouldn't feel a bit of pain. So, he spoke on the walkie-talkie to gather the stickers and take them to the back door. But from behind, someone came running, jumping on everyone's heads and flying up to the top, where the manager was, cutting off his connection. While downstairs, the police were all being pushed around by the zombies. Kim just passed by, cutting the manager from all sides and already pressing his head against the wall, saying this wouldn't be a fatal injury, as they begged him not to kill anyone if he succeeded. And so, he just sent the knife in hand, sticking him to the wall because it was time to go deeper. Downstairs, they finally knocked down the zombies and were climbing the stairs. But up there, the manager had already filled his hand with stickers, wondering who that guy who had dominated him was. Inside the business, he already beat up the rooster men, ordering Phoenix to get out. Back downstairs, the clever lady was telling the manager to surrender, but he was up there, saying he hadn't seen so many cops since he left the special forces. And so, it's nice to see your rookies because he was Dongchen from class 29X. And then, he just said, fire. Meanwhile, our musketeers outside were gossiping that they were shooting and complaining because they wanted to go too, since they went through secret training. But then, a big man appeared behind them, the other manager, asking what they were doing there. They jumped back using a taser, but he caught it and threw it up. So now it's screwed, right? But then he stops to say that the Republic of Korea has strict regulations regarding the use of firearms, and the police, in this case, are no exception. They had to learn to use non-lethal weapons, like those shock and rubber bullets. And so, the manager just said to shoot as much as they want, since with the table back there, it won't do much damage. Downstairs, they were really complaining about what that table was made of. So, the captain says they're going to switch to real ammunition and already warns the manager because if he wants to surrender, now is the time. But he prefers to die right there, because in the cell, he won't be able to use his cards. He tells that when he was active in the KNPSOU, he had contact with these things that turned his life upside down. Over time, his body began to build immunity against them, and slowly nothing satisfied him anymore. That was until he met Phoenix, who came giving him a certain lollipop that made him feel joy in life again. Phoenix said that if he worked for her, he could receive the best things in life. However, he had to promise to only eat one of those a day, otherwise, he wouldn't live another month. As he was already on the edge, he took 5 at once and put them in his mouth because this was his last wish. Then, he pulled out a pistol and started shooting at the police. Meanwhile, more roosters appeared shooting at Kim. But he dodged, knocked down the first one, and kept crushing everyone because up ahead he finally found another important member of the Phoenix. This member said he arrived much earlier than expected. Kim already asked if she received his gift card because this was the Phoenix of the first generation. She went crazy asking who he was, a question he hears everywhere. But now let's remember the old times. Back at the KNPSOU, they were machine gunning the manager with real bullets. But even with so many shots, it never ended. He got out of there, went forward, and threw the table at them. The arrogant one they're just saying, "Come on, at this rate, we'll catch him quickly." Then, the guy high on the lollipop went at them as if it were nothing. He shot the first one because he shouldn't raise the shield without thinking properly. He got in the middle of the police pointing in front of the captain, saying that she herself was afraid of hitting her colleagues. But when he went to shoot, she just kicked him in the middle of the stomach and shot him flying, showing who's in charge there. Looking at the cop who went down, he was already lifeless, while the manager, who refused to die, got up again and threw a smoke grenade among the people, who couldn't see anything. At that moment, all you could hear was the sound of gunfire and the bodies of her fellow officers falling. The dude said it was pathetic to panic just because one of them slept in quotation marks. He said they had no experience so they should think of it as a lesson, even if the price of that lesson is their lives. The confusion continued, with each shot someone falling to the ground. It seemed like the guy even had infinite ammo in this thing. The captain, amidst the chaos and the smoke, heard everything being fired and the bodies of her colleagues falling. But where the hell was all this coming from, because if it continues, maybe she'll fall too. At that moment, the arrogant one feared for her life. Until, at that moment, the smoke cleared, and the manager was right in front of her. But since he was standing still, his lifespan was probably over. Looking closely, the guy was a legend, right? He was sitting there in the middle of the smoke, taking everyone down with gunfire. But, in reality, the stroke of genius that happened here was that he used his recorder with his own speeches to enter the minds of the police, who ended up shooting at each other in desperation in the middle of the smoke, and the captain only survived because she lay on the ground. Then, as the woman got up, that feeling that they could die disappeared, and her reality began to become clearer because all her colleagues and companions were dragged upstairs. So, she panicked and felt fear and desperation for the first time as she cried in fright. Then came a noise from the other side because the 3 musketeers were running from the gorilla because nothing worked against this man. None of what Kim taught in training was effective. In that same secret training, he taught the musketeers about the vital points of the human body. If they had blunt weapons, he taught them where to strike. With a weapon with sharp tips, he taught them the places with more blood vessels. And so, if they encountered an enemy in the mission, they should aim for the places he had shown, as most of them would fall with a well-aimed blow. But one catch, because there will be exceptions, like this gorilla that nothing happened to, didn't even tickle him. And so, back to the present, the musketeers run for their lives. But when they reached the front, it was full of zombie bodies, and further ahead, the KNPSOU police were devastated. So, it screwed up for everyone. Then, when the gorilla arrived, he came happy, saying the other did a good job. But that's until he saw him there on the ground, motionless because there was no life left in that body. Now, back at the old Phoenix, Kim wants to know the whereabouts of the current Phoenix, while she wants to know who the hell he is. And since she's not an idiot, she should already know that. But her only guess is that he's an interesting person, saying interesting things. And if they had met before, she would have even served tea to talk. But, when she was about to take off an adhesive, he just came at her with a punch because their technique is too easy, always pretending to converse while secretly applying the adhesive. And so, don't even move because now comes a kick. Then she tried to bite the one under her tongue, right? But you can leave that mouth open because that's too obvious. And he even thinks it must be very uncomfortable to brush your teeth with something like that on your tongue every day. So, open your mouth, and let's get rid of that. At that moment, she tried to kick him in the leg, but without the help of the adhesives, that didn't do anything against him. So, on the ground, he asks for the location of the Phoenix because nothing good comes from protecting a coward like her who hides. Then, at that moment, 3 kids appeared throwing stones at him, and she was all happy because the boys arrived. And hearing that, the first one came up, but got hit and went down. The second and third lying there because Kim is now furious, asking who gave her permission to mess with children. And so, he just pulled out the knife since she can't survive from now on. Then, at that moment, it's remembered that in the past, the old Phoenix was looking at Gwang while the Buddha asked what she thought of it, because this child will be the new Gwang. She said she didn't know, even though he seemed stronger than the first generation by Gwang. but it seems he is incapable of finishing the fight. But, in fact, she's very wrong because he can easily finish it. He's just choosing not to do it now. So, it means that boy is just playing with the opponent. Then the Buddha says that when that boy came here for the first time, all the children had been cut by the first generation Bi-Gwang, and that's why the countless cuts he makes are very beautiful, like willow leaves. And so, returning to the present, she finally understood why this man is definitely him, Bi-Gwang. And after laying the woman down, he comes asking for the last time where the phoenix is, but still, she seems unwilling to talk. While remembering that in the past, the first generation phoenix, after stepping down, was given to the new phoenix to determine her fate, and usually when the old mentors are replaced, a replacement ceremony must be done with the death of the old generation. However, the new phoenix let the old one live. Then, the current phoenix was asking why Sang-Pi tried to poison her because even though she let her live, Sang-Pi still tried to poison her with that. And then she goes crazy, asking why she doesn't like her, because even though she fought for her life until she finally became one of the mentors, now everyone hates her for being the stoner of the group. But she, of all people, shouldn't hate because she went through the same things. And so she went to take that class, telling Sang-Pi to like her, and from there, she felt love for the first time in her life. So, she's not going to give up the only person she truly loved. And so it was just a goodbye to the old phoenix, while she said that the children were her responsibility and so she shouldn't take it out on the phoenix, while she herself was coming by motorcycle to save her people, who now there's not much left. Then, going back to the others, the gorilla was screaming for his friend, while the three musketeers were calling for the captain because she was still in shock because of what happened, and they took the opportunity to slap her face as well, but now they're screwed. The gorilla is very angry and covered his arm with adhesive to avenge his friend. Then he jumped on them, throwing them aside, and when he was about to grab the girls, Kim came and slashed his arm because this brute won't be able to do anything while it's his turn, since this beaten up girl's body still has its uses. He said he underestimated the other manager because he hit him right at his pressure point, but still, it happened what happened, right? So, the other one came back with a punch, but he pulled out a shield from the ground that the guy hit straight on, and that must have hurt his hand, right? Then he came telling the others to take care of those kids because he'll finish this quickly, but the bastard grabbed two people and put them in front so he wouldn't shoot since the cops can't harm innocents, but still, the guy is so mad that he shot hitting right on his shoulder, and he screamed in pain, and told him to calm down, as he has to keep at least one alive because the others are just part of the story. And then, knowing this, he got even angrier coming at him. And there were 2 shots in the leg while he ordered to report back to the base that they're returning. And he himself was thinking he judged the situation very wrongly because he had high expectations for them, but still, they were completely destroyed, even the arrogant captain. But before that, Jaeongi asks him to tie up the guy because she's afraid to do it. And then, at that moment, a motorcycle came at him, he dodged and tried to grab the gun, but got shaken sideways by the gorilla saying that Miss Phoenix is back. She told Sangmuk to gather everyone and follow, as she finally found an escape route. And then he gave the sad news because everyone is gone, except him, and it's just as he said, everyone who was here didn't live to tell the tale. And now she, angry, came at him, starting Kim's next fight. She was using poison stars while our guy was there. Wow, that's scary. Then it showed that in the past someone called for him, Bi-Gwang, and that person was the one who would become the future Phoenix. She said she heard he got scolded for not obeying Lord Buddha and asked if he was okay. But the guy was just there with a serious face and a bandaged arm asking, and her. But instead of complaining if he wasn't okay, she said it's all her fault for being so weak. She said Buddha said he will now be responsible for evaluating them starting next month, so she's relieved that he will be in charge and is also very jealous. He was promoted to be one of the months and even got a name, Bi-Gwang, and asked if he thought she could earn a name. But he just said she has big dreams. So she said she knew the relationship between the months is awful, but if she could become one of the months, she asked if he would still be friendly with her and asked him to promise that. Then, right away, it went back to that scene of her angry jumping off the bike with her poisons. The moment the starball touched Kim, he already put on his mask because it was a smoke-style poison, an explosive particle, but that hinders his vision, and since his arm is still messed up, it's very difficult for him to fight at his fullest now. Because the woman was coming with the bike on top of his head, he managed to dodge by walking to the side while she skidded the bike, saying for how long he's going to keep running. But when she stopped to look closely, Kim was already going up the stairs of the building. She revved up the bike, saying she's capable of climbing the stairs. Meanwhile, who was running full speed inside the building, that blue smoke was following him and the crazy one passing by with the bike, until up ahead she sees all the cockheads lying on the ground and only one man in front of them. He was telling her not to be careful and run over his people, but the woman sped up the bike fast and passed zigzag, like that training Goku did with Master Roshi. And so she passed, speeding up her bike, but when she was in front, Kim disappeared. She heard a voice saying she's really good at driving this thing, and even I wanted to have her skill for driving a bike, right folks, don't you agree it would be good? But, at this moment, who was on top of her and came grabbing her neck with a chokehold. There they were, the two of them on the bike, chokehold, until she managed to use one of her hands to accelerate the bike, and even if the bike crashes, it's her who's screwed since he's wearing a helmet and the crazy one is here without a helmet, just with her adhesive mask. Right away the bike skidded, and both were thrown to the ground. He got up like an old man messing with his back because it's the second time he's fallen like this today. The other one back there asked who he is, since if it weren't for him, everything would have gone according to their plans. But Kim said he doesn't know when it started, but at some point, she was blaming everyone. She used to follow him and do what he commanded when she was younger, so the person she should blame isn't him. She yelled, demanding him to say what's going on because she doesn't know who he is. And it was then that he dropped the bomb, he's Bi-Gwang. The Phoenix was left clueless, asking what the hell he's talking about with that, but the angry one ordered Phoenix to surrender to the police because he was planning to take her to the grave today, but she's responsible for the funds. So, she may have information about important data that was left behind, so she was to testify against all the crap she went through because of that worthless Buddha and give all the evidence related to him, and only if she does that she can stay alive. But the woman went crazy there on the ground and started laughing, asking if Bi-Gwang had any secret disciples. He said she, of all people, should know he had no disciples in his entire life. She already did a bunch of investigations on him when she became one of the monks, and he asks if she really thought he wouldn't notice he was being followed on every mission because there were only 2 people in Hwaguksa who hated that monk besides her and him, so he asks why she didn't leave. The Phoenix, on the ground, told him to shut up because Bi-Gwang is dead, and Mr. Buddha even showed his body and said she would be next if she didn't obey properly. He said back then it's really hard to believe. The woman on the ground said Bi-Gwang shouldn't have said that to his disciple because she hates him more than Mr. Buddha, and then she put 2 more stickers on him because now it's getting serious. Hey everyone, that's it for today's video. If you liked the story, leave a comment so I can bring the next one. Goodbye.